I'm excited to introduce you to the brand new bucket feature within the retirement budget calculator. When you're building a bucket strategy for retirement, there are a couple of things you need to be thinking about. Number one, how much money do I put in each bucket? Number two, how many buckets do I want? And number three, which accounts are associated with each bucket? So if you're ready, let's dive in. I'm going to show you how this new bucket strategy works. And then after I explain how the bucket strategy works, I'm going to circle back around and talk about why you might want something like a bucket strategy right at the time that you retire. Okay, let's dive in. So here we are. We're in the retirement budget calculator, and this is the retirement optimizer section. Up here, you'll notice here's the future view, and here's the bucket strategy. And the first thing that this tells us is how much money do we need in each bucket. And so you'll notice it says $300,000 is in our income bucket. Well, how did we come up with that number? The way that we came up with it is in the future view, you can see these people are going to be retiring in 2026. They will have no income. They won't be old enough to start Social Security yet, so they're not going to have any Social Security income from 2026, 27, and 2028. But they have a budget that requires $100,000 a year. And for the sake of this example, I'm assuming there's no inflation. Of course, when you build your own plan, you're going to want to include some inflation factor in there. But what you can see is they need to withdraw $100,000 a year the first 3 years of retirement. And over here, you can see that's what the shortfall represents. That's the money that they're taking out of the portfolio. And if we click on the beginning balance, you can see there's $100,000. We have $598,000 to work with in the brokerage money market account. And so at the end of the year, we're going to take $100,000 out. They're going to earn a 4% growth rate. And at the end of the year, they'll have $517,000. So coming back up to the bucket strategy, we know that we need $300,000 of portfolio withdrawals for the first 3 years. Now, what if you want 5 years of portfolio withdrawals? Well, you can do that. Or what if you say you only need 2 years of portfolio withdrawals? You can do that as well. But the first thing that we need to understand is how much money do we need in bucket one, that low risk bucket where we're going to be taking portfolio withdrawals. The second thing that we need to be thinking about is how many buckets do we want? The default is to show a 4-bucket strategy, but maybe you only want 3 buckets. So you can come down here and you can set this to 0. And now you have a 3-bucket strategy, where you have 3 years of portfolio withdrawals in bucket 1. In a moderate bucket 2, you have 5 years of portfolio withdrawals. And what that does is it leaves all of the remainder of your liquid investable assets can be invested in the growth strategy. Because as you can see, what we're trying to do with a bucket strategy is buy time. Time is the cure to the volatility of the stock market. The more time you have, the more risk you can afford to take, because you're not needing to take portfolio withdrawals from very risky assets in a bucket strategy, which in days like today, where we're seeing all this market volatility, people that have this type of strategy just gives them a lot of confidence those first couple of years of retirement. So the first thing that the bucket strategy does is it shows us how much money do we need in each bucket. Now, if we choose this, the withdrawal strategy, and we come over to buckets, we say that we have $575,000 in that income bucket now, the money market account. We're not going to need her IRA until down here, and John's Roth IRA can be allocated towards the growth bucket. The reserve bucket means these are assets that we're not going to spend, or we're not going to spend them until we have a medical expense, because this is our HSA bucket. So now that we've turned on the bucket strategy, you can see they need $300,000, but remember, we allocated that first money market account to bucket 1, so they're overfunded. They have more money in bucket 1 than they need, but we don't want to be overfunded. So what we can do is we can come down here and we can check this box. And what it's going to say is, okay, $300,000 is available for these first portfolio withdrawals, and then $207,000 is available for bucket 2, still using that money market account. And then the remainder of those assets are going to be over here in bucket 3. So now we've not only decided how many buckets we need, how much money goes in each bucket, but which accounts are going to be used to fund all of the buckets. Now that we have an overview of how this new bucket strategy works, let me tell you why this is so important. When you're getting ready to retire, one of the biggest risks you face to your retirement is a poor sequence of returns. That's where you're taking portfolio withdrawals and the accounts are falling in value. It's like being stabbed and going to donate blood at the same time. You're taking a bad situation and you're making it worse if you're in a situation where the portfolio is declining at the same time you're starting to take those portfolio withdrawals. And so what we know is that how people behave in times of volatility isn't always great. And so if we have a cash bucket or low risk money that we're pulling from, it just helps people stay invested with their longer term resources because they know that they're not going to need that money usually for a couple of years. So the money that we need in the short term, we want that money to be lower risk, and money that we don't need for 5 or 10 years, we can maybe have a moderate bucket or a long-term bucket. Now, some people love the idea of having 4 buckets. Some people love the idea of having 3 buckets. Other people say, well, geez, I like something more like a barbell approach where we just have 2 buckets. So we could set this to 0 and we could say, okay, let's put 5 years of portfolio withdrawals in bucket 1, and then all of the remainder assets can be allocated and invested more aggressively. When you're investing more aggressively, you still want to be broadly diversified across asset classes, sectors, across the entire globe. We like to use low-cost ETFs to create that asset allocation. You still want to be rebalancing your portfolio. The money that we don't need for 5 years, we're just not going to be as nervous about it if we retire and the market's declining right at the same time. So anyways, I hope you found this helpful. This new bucket strategy is very powerful. If you want to give it a try, just go to retirementbudgetcalculator.com and you can create an account for yourself and see how this would work for your specific situation. Okay, thanks so much.